internet. It's become an intrinsic part of our lives. We used to talk about offline and online as if they were somehow different realms or different worlds. But we live online now. It's part of our lives. And we have to understand that and work out what it means in the 21st century.
Surveillance is the concept of observation and self-observation.
So how did we get to have our current surveillance systems? And I believe that to answer this question, we not only have to look at the police and the government, we also not only have to look at technology, but we have to look at physics and mathematics and systems that create rationality.
That is, how do these images of surveillance, how do they operate within the logic of surveillance? How are they sort of part of not only science about, not only representations of video surveillance, but how do these, what I will call images of surveillance, how are they part of the working and functioning of surveillance itself?
The data you collect are no longer for immediate use, but for storage or exchange. They become values.
We have to learn from the future, and that means we have to learn to price our activities, mainly producing data all the time. Learning how to price our data is therefore just one example, as I said, in an increasing post-capitalist society.
But it seems as if today we live instead in a society of exposure and exhibition. We do this, of course, at our own peril, because in the process, through our desires, we've opened ourselves up in unprecedented ways.
Privacy is seen as a mark of privilege. The elite have privacy, no one else does. Privacy is always a privilege for some and not usually granted to the many. And thus, democracy usually espouses transparency.
When whatever you store on cloud provider servers can be gathered by government, there is just no privacy left.
It's only when people have a little bit of sense of being invisible can they actually then do stuff.
The trade-offs that we've made for convenience in terms of privacy, it's just interesting to see how we've run over that threshold so easily and effortlessly, and how enmeshed we are now with data in our everyday life.
What matters is that they can lead their life in a way they want to, and they're aware of that, but they, well, when you ask them, they can't do it of a balance. And the balance is, can I lead my life as I want it, or do I have to change everything so radical, or do I have to go on a hill, cut the electricity cord, as someone said in an interview, and live as a hermit, you know, retreat from all the world.
There's so much material in public anyhow, that kind of framing it in a different narrative is often like a very powerful thing to do, because they, you know, so much material gets released, and this is kind of the WikiLeaks problem as well, right? That it's hard to kind of pick out the poignant parts, and a lot of things which are potentially quite powerful are out there in public, but are not framed for media attention at all.
The point here is that if you're going to be a deep thinker, if you're going to be a deep and thoughtful person, you need secrets.
That politicians have just utterly failed to create sufficient safeguards for privacy and to rein in surveillance agencies.
You could have the rich organization of human life without something like a centralized power.
Second question, hybrid surveillance agencies. How do we know when Apple and Facebook and Google seem to be working with the NSA, GCHQ, CSE, etc., the many partners of the NSA? How do we know who is doing the surveillance? Well, the answer is we don't really know, because we don't know enough about how those entities are speaking to each other, are connecting with each other.
So positivism, the philosophical basis of fact collection, has now turned into the basis of data collection. It had to change for that. Its purpose was no longer to turn experiences with nature into facts for industrialization, as in the 19th century, but to turn observations of lifestyles and biological life into data for post-Fordist valorization and political control.
Like when the mechanical age came and covered over the agricultural age, you got terror. And then when the electrical age came and covered over the mechanical age, you got terror. And now we have a sort of, how could you say it, our digital shadow, the sort of info world which is covering over our flesh and blood world. And well, the question is, what are we gonna get?
I tell you, erase your traces. Whatever you say, don't say it twice. If you find your thoughts in someone else's thinking, deny it. Who never has given his signature, who did not leave any image, who was not there, who didn't say anything, how can he be caught? Erase your traces.